Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dick Pogue, a former president of the City Club. I'm pinch hitting today for Ralph Delarada, who's out of the jurisdiction. Before we begin this today, we have a little deviation from our normal procedure. And so we're not yet on the radio hookup. Before we begin the forum, I would like to ask everyone to join in a moment of silence in honor of Paul Unger. As many of you know, he passed away last Friday, and Paul was a real regular at the City Club for many, many years, came to many of the forums, listened to the ideas. He challenged the speakers with very penetrating questions. Paul was instrumental in many ways to help ensure the vitality of this club. He was a member of the board of directors. He served as president of the club, of the foundation, that is, related to the club. He and his wife, Sonia, endowed one of our funded forums called Cleveland and the World. And in 1995, he was inducted into the City Club Hall of Fame. I think it's obvious that this community and the City Club have lost a wonderful friend. So let us all reflect for just a moment on the wonderful life of Paul Unger. Thank you. Now we're going to start over. Good afternoon. My name is Dick Pogue, and I'm a former president of the City Club. Established in October 1912, the City Club has served as one of the nation's premier public podiums for civic dialogue covering important topics of our time. We draw guest speakers from a variety of fields and backgrounds and points of view, providing a national forum for free speech. These speakers, rich in experience and knowledge, are here to spur discussion and learning among the citizens of Cleveland as well as to our greater national audience. Now, turning today to our program, it's my great pleasure to introduce our speaker, the Honorable Jon Husted. And when I say speaker, of course, there's a double meaning, because Jon Husted just finished 4 strong years as Speaker of the Ohio House of Representatives. Because of our state's much maligned legislative term limits, he's no longer Speaker, but he is just beginning a 4-year term as a member of the Ohio Senate. And I'd like to remind you all that in 2012 he'll be eligible for a second 4-year term. Jon has a very interesting and unconventional background. He has done a tremendous amount, even though he's still only 41 years of age. An adopted child, Jon was raised in Montpelier, Ohio, which is in the northwest corner of the state. And he was a 4-sport athlete in high school. Then he went to the University of Dayton. He played cornerback on the 1989 team and became an All-American in the Division III category. That team that he was on won the national championship in Division III at that time. After he graduated, he almost took a job coaching football at the University of Toledo, but at the last minute, he decided to stay in Dayton and work for a congressional campaign that was going on at the time. Once he got into that, he really got the bug for politics and decided to stay there in Dayton. And the conditions, of course, economic conditions were challenging, but he was there to see what he could do about it. He was first an aide to the Montgomery County Commissioners near Dayton, and then vice president of Business and Economic Development at the Dayton Area Chamber of Commerce, which I think is a very important part of his background. And while he was there, he and 2 other young Dayton businessmen, Kevin DeWine and Tom Rega, got together trying to face the problems that Dayton faced in those days, and decided that they could help the depressed economy of Dayton through political leadership. It was a very unique arrangement, and out of that, Jon ran for the Ohio House and won a seat at age 33. 4 years after that, he was elected Speaker of the House and as I said, he served there 4 years. He exercised very strong leadership as Speaker of the House, and I'd like to mention 4 examples. First, there had been discussion in our state for a long, long time about our being a high-tax state and how that was negatively affecting everything we did. So he led the charge after many years of debate and discussion and consideration of various alternatives to restructure the tax code in Ohio, and accomplished that. And under his leadership, Ohio taxes were reduced 21%, the largest income tax cut in the history of this state. Second, he led the legislative effort to pass the most fiscally conservative budget in more than 40 years before he came along. Third, he and Senate President Bill Harris together led what I regard as a revolutionary change in the way the Ohio legislature views public higher education. For years, it had been said that our state did not support higher education, and we ranked very low in the per capita funding support by the legislature. And he and Bill and others got all of that changed, and there's been a sea change of attitude, I think it's fair to say, in legislative understanding of the importance to economic development of higher education. And fourth, and related to that third one, he was a great believer in the importance, both nationally and here in the state, of the STEM aspects of higher education: science, technology, engineering, and manufacturing, and put into effect a number of programs to support and underscore the importance of STEM education. Along the way, he and Bill Harris realized that with a new Democratic governor in office, it would be important to have a bipartisan approach, and they reached out, and the result, as you know, was a unanimously passed budget in 2007, a feat almost unheard of. Of course, John's not perfect, and he's had his battles along the way on various issues, but I think that he, because of his tremendous energy, some people might think he's got a hyperactive thyroid, but it's really his competitive spirit and the practical business background, I think, that he had in Dayton, which has really helped to change the conditions of this state. I'd like to read and finish here with 2 quick snippets from editorials about him, which I think summarize the way many of us look at his contributions to this state. The Dayton Daily News, and here's a quote: "Husted is a capable, responsible public servant with a record of accomplishment. He has worked across party lines, focusing on down-to-earth issues that affect the quality of life of Ohioans, education, the economy, rather than wandering off into the symbolic heat generation subjects. He has learned a lot about a lot of important subjects, and he has much to offer." And I'd say the Plain Dealer was even more effusive in its editorial. It said, "In an Ohio hindered by term limits, legislatures with a little experience can quickly amass a lot of power. This was surely the case with outgoing House Speaker Jon Husted. When he was elevated to the second most powerful position in state government in January of 2005, Husted was a young, smart, ambitious, relatively unknown, moderately conservative Republican legislator from suburban Dayton with a thin legislative record. Just 4 years later, Husted leaves office as the most effective House Speaker of the term limits era. His record of significant accomplishment includes major public policy initiatives relating to education and the economy that promise to serve the state well in the future. So, ladies and gentlemen, with great admiration, I present Senator Jon Husted, who will be discussing county government reform.